Hello there, interesting soul. On this episode, we join hands together to spread love, peace, honesty, and forgiveness to the whole world. And we shall be doing that, my friend, as we get to react together to these videos that we are about to see. But one thing, my friend, before we reach to that point, I'd like to share something with you from the Good Vibes book here of wisdom. And this is what it says. This is the covenant I will make with the house of Israel after that time, declares the Lord. I will put my laws in their minds and write them on their hearts. I will be their God, and they will be my people. No longer will a man teach his neighbor or a man his brother, saying, Know the Lord, because they will all know me, from the least of them to the greatest. For I will forgive their wickedness and will remember their sins no more. That, my friends, is from Hebrews 8:10 going down. Good vibes creature. Here we really acknowledge God Almighty and His Son Jesus Christ. Is why we never start our show without giving thanks to that mighty Creator. So let's do so together kindly. Thank you, wonderful Lord Father, for this good vibes creature that you've been able to click this video. Thank you for their lives, Father. Thank you for your goodness and your breath in them. Dear Lord Father, today we have videos here that we shall be reacting to together with this viewer, Father, with the pure intentions of spreading our message of love and peace. Guide us through, Father. Help us to do it together and reach all corners of the world with our message. Dear Lord Father, this viewer that has clicked, you know them individually and personally, Father. You know what it is that they need you to do in their lives, Father. Please intervene, bless them, forgive them all their sins, Father, and reveal yourself to them. Guide us all through, Father, we do pray. In Jesus' mighty name, we pray and believe. Amen. Interesting creatures. Let's dive into spreading some love and good vibes.
I think that globe Earth was meant to do a number of things, including discrediting God, but it was a huge part in the end plan for the alien invasion. So with globe theory, they made up the concept of space. With the concept of space comes aliens. When you believe in flat Earth, you understand that they aren't aliens, they are demons, they are fallen angels. So even when the aliens start showing up, which is like, last week that started happening, people are not going to see that those are demons or fallen angels because they believe in the concept of outer space and that the earth is a globe, and they're not going to register that we are in the end times. Even when the aliens start destroying things, they're not going to look to God for that. They're going to look for the one world because they never register that it's a demon, it's not an alien. Another huge part of lying about outer space is that they literally have a fake sky up right now. I did a video on it, and people are thinking that they're looking at the Star of Jacob, which I was as well. So I think that that's going to fool a huge chunk of people into thinking that when the anti comes down, that it's actually the Messiah, because they saw that Star of Jacob, which I think was a Starlink. That's also why they've been faking like meteors and all types of stuff like that for as long as we know, because they want you to believe that things can come from outer space and that they can like enter our atmosphere from space when that's not a thing. There's a firmament. They've been slowly conditioning us to believe that it's possible for an alien invasion and that this isn't an attack from a different dimension. I can't even believe that I'm getting on TikTok to say something like this, but this is for entertainment purposes only, and these are strictly my opinions.
Peace, family. So I need y'all to look at everybody on this beach and look where they're looking. Why are they looking in the water like this? Is this for a movie? Do they see something? Because we're looking at it and we don't see it. But everybody out there is literally looking towards the water. I've made videos in the past of saying that something is in the water. Why are they looking at the water? What's in the water? What is calling them to look that way? Y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think.
Well, hello. Hi, look who graced us with his presence. Hi, Zion. Good morning. Good morning. Are we being too loud out here for you? Are we being too loud? Were you trying to sleep? Well, I'm glad you're awake. Good morning. Good morning. Good morning. Oh, good boy. Yeah, you needed that chin scratch, see? Aren't you glad you didn't sleep in?
You know what a 300-pound canary says?
What does a 300-pound canary say?
Kitty.
Zion's not impressed. Morning, Zion.
Where does the 1,000-pound bear sleep?
So back when I was in ministry school, I had such a crush on this guy, and we were hanging out every single day. All of my friends were like, oh my gosh, he likes you so much. He's all over you. Literally physical touch. And I was like, I know. He has such a crush on me. And then one day I was like, hey, I really like you. But to my surprise, he goes, no, you're my sister in Christ. I'm sorry, what? And he goes, yeah, well, I prayed and asked God that when I met my wife, a diamond would manifest. And then I would be able to take that diamond to a jeweler and turn it into a ring. And then he says, and I've met you and a diamond hasn't appeared, so you're not my wife.
I have found that a key way to establish dominance in the workplace is to repeatedly call the one person whose ego is higher than the Empire State Building by the wrong name. Repeatedly.
When a man is respected, fed, and his sexual needs are met, he will do anything for his woman. He will slay the dragons, work 3 jobs, go out of his way to make her happier. It's true. This is how men are. When he is well loved, it brings out the best version of his most manly, masculine self. And this version of him will be passionately compelled to lay his life down for you and the people he loves.
What is the middle pedal for? So if you press the one on the right, called sustain pedal, then anything that you play will stay. But if you want just one note to stay, you use the sostenuto pedal. So the trick is to press it immediately after you play, usually a bass note. And then all other notes are not getting caught. So only the one we pressed with the middle pedal.
You have to let yourself be bad in order to be good.
Yes, and many people don't understand this concept because we like to pride ourselves as good people. I need you to understand that unless you have some well-developed insight into your own capacity for evil, you're not a good person. At best, you're simply harmless, domesticated, or naive. For example, a declawed cat cannot be proud of itself for not shredding down the curtains. It simply has no clothes. Being harmless isn't a virtue. Taking pride in being so nice you can never hurt a fly does not signal a good person. You are domesticated. To be good is to master evil. And Nusla, how do you master evil? 3 steps. 1 is to recognize evil when you see it. 2 is to have the skills to destroy it if you come across it. 3 is to have the ability to act evil if needed. The last one is where I lost most of you. Sometimes to be good is to act evil in order to protect the good. Because if harmless, defenseless people did not have the tools, knowledge, and insight into mastering evil, how would they protect the good? How would they fight for it? A good person is a dangerous one. One that can control their evil, but also one that isn't afraid to use it when needed. This topic coincides with shadow work. If you're not new to my page, you know I've spoken very much about shadow work. I've even written an article about it, and I want to read you these 2 paragraphs. As nice as we all like to think we are, we're all subject to a deep unconscious desire to do evil. These hidden desires often manifest as intrusive thoughts, feelings, temptations, and even through our dreams. The sweet psychologist Carl Jung refers to the hidden dark side of the human psyche as the shadow. The shadow is the unconscious part of our personality that's often suppressed because it does not align with contemporary morality, values, and culture norms. It is extremely emotional, led by primal instincts, and consists of elements such as hate, envy, aggression, greed, bigotry, and many other dark parts of ourselves that we do not want to associate with. The shadow is built very early on in our childhood, where we learn to embrace only aspects of the selves that were applauded and began suppressing elements of the self that were punished by family, peers, and even society. For example, selfishness is a common trait often shunned in children growing up. As a result, many of you have been shaped into people pleasers with a great need to be liked and accepted. Your natural selfishness was thus tucked away and buried deep into your shadows in efforts to be considered a good person. However, you can't truly call yourself a good person unless you have some well-developed insight into your own capacity for evil. If you're unaware of your capacity for evil, you're not a good person, you're simply naive, harmless, and domesticated.
Animals discovered in 2024, Part 1. Firstly, I present to you the skeleton panda sea squirt that was recently discovered off the coast of Japan in 2024. These sea creatures can live up to 7 to 30 years, and scientists really aren't too sure why they look like this, but they named them skeleton panda sea squirts because they literally look like baby skeletons dressed up for Halloween. This is awesome. Next, breeders in the US have recently just created a new hybrid cat. Meet the XL Bully Cat, which is mixed with the Sphinx and Munchkin cat. However, governments are already saying don't buy this cat due to its health problems by not having any hair and short legs. Yeah, I was not expecting this in 2024. Finally, in June, researchers found a new species of piranha-like fish, which looks like this right here, and they decided to name this fish Sauron, after Lord of the Rings, because these researchers seriously believe it looks just like it, and I mean, they're not really wrong.
Okay, I'm gonna try this again because my last video supposedly violated community guidelines and I have no idea why. But I wanted to talk about lucid dreaming. And like a few years ago, there was a TikTok trend where it said, you know, ask the characters in your dream the date and the time, or let them know that you're dreaming to see their reaction. And this is something that you should absolutely not do if you're lucid dreaming. I'm not typically a lucid dreamer at all, but last night I guess was a little bit different, and it was really strange because I wasn't lucid dreaming and then I started lucid dreaming. These are things that I thought was fake. Like, I thought they were fake. I didn't think they were true stories. I thought people would just say it to get views and whatever. But last night I was taught that no, it's a reality. So last night I was dreaming, and it started off where I was in my room and I was watching a series with my boyfriend, and I was trying to watch more of the series, but I had realized I had lost some of the DVDs or whatever. And I thought to myself, oh, I should just order more, you know, whatever. And I ended up all of a sudden being taken to my mother's backyard. And my mother's backyard is relatively small. I mean, we live in Miami, so we're on 0 lots. And I was out there with my boyfriend, and then my ex-husband came around, and he had been working at a university, which he doesn't. But he had been, I guess, I don't know, giving refreshments out for some sort of big event that they had, and he was talking to my boyfriend about how hot it was outside, and just be careful when you go outside because the humidity is at this percentage and it's really hard to breathe. And I'm looking around at the backyard, and there's a covered terrace, which we don't have, and there's a huge pool and a big grill, and then just like a vast yard with grass behind it. And I look over at him and I say, wait a second, my mom, when did we get this pool? My mom would never allow a pool in the backyard. And he's like, I don't know. And I said to him, this is me dreaming. And then his face, his demeanor just kind of changed into like this, what? And I remember thinking, oh my God, that's the moment that it clicked for me, and I became lucid in my dream. And I said, I shouldn't have said that. And I looked at him, but I said it again in the dream, and I said, this is me dreaming. And then his cheeks started to turn kind of like a light static, like that you get on your TV. And he started mouthing at me, and he goes, and I'm like, what? Like, at first I couldn't understand. And then he mouthed again, like he wasn't speaking, but he was mouthing. He goes, they're gonna find you. And all of a sudden I was yanked out into that vast yard in what looked like a motorcycle and buggy kind of situation. and it pulled me into this gray dimension. It was like all gray, and then it was outlines of like cubes, and I was going so fast that I was being pulled back, and the wind was really, really strong. And I remember thinking to myself, you have to wake up, wake up, wake up, wake up, to the point where I thought, am I dead? Why am I not waking up? Usually if something scares me in a dream, I wake up, like, wake up, wake up, wake up. And I wake up and I'm in my bed, and I turn to my boyfriend and I say, oh my God, I had the craziest dream. And he's like, what happened? And I said, I don't know, I wasn't lucid, and then I became lucid. And you know that TikTok trend where it says not to say anything, and then I said something, and then things got really weird. And he's like, that's crazy. Yeah, I remember that. But then it was kind of like, I don't know, like a dead silence. And I'm like, am I still dreaming? So I asked him if I'm still dreaming, and he's like, no. And then all of a sudden my eyes kind of slowly open, and I'm not talking to him anymore. I'm laying on my side, and I'm like, am I still dreaming? So I turn around and I grab my boyfriend's wrist. My boyfriend was awake at the time because he had spent all night awake. Sorry, that's my dog. He had spent all night awake. Sorry, my dog was making noises. I said, am I awake? And he says, you are most definitely awake. Why, what happened? And so I explained to him the whole dream, and he said to me, I'm getting goosebumps. He's like, why don't you Google and see, like, maybe on Reddit forums if somebody else has had that experience. And when I tell you that when I went onto those Reddit forums and I was reading some of the experiences that other people had, almost verbatim, it was like the character got weird once they realized that they knew that they were lucid dreaming. They were pulled into some other dimension, vortex, void, whatever the case was. They knew they were in danger, or they felt that they were in danger. They couldn't wake up, or they woke up in another dream, like they were taken out of one dream and then put into another dream. So, I mean, I thought that this wasn't real until today. I didn't mean to do it. It just happened. It was just something I said in the dream, and then I became lucid, and I was like, that's not good. Has this happened to anybody else? I know definitely to other people that have posted, but recently, has this happened to anybody else? And I'm legit thinking that we do astral project, or there's something weird going on that we don't know about.
Bro, what the hell is this? Nah, come get your kitten. Bro, what the hell is this? Nah, come get your kitten, homegirl. What are you doing? Nah, come get your kitten. What the hell? Bro, what are you doing here? Bro, nah, you can't do this. This ain't no, what the hell was that? Who's that, the father? Y'all wildin'. What is this? No, y'all can't just leave this here. Baby. Babe, look. Look, look. There's a freaking kitten. What are you doing?
Well, isn't that interesting? You guys remember this image from Google Earth that people were claiming was a UFO underwater base, and then Google was like, no, it's natural, but we're just going to go ahead and blur it so people can't see a natural formation. Weird. So Danny Sheehan from the Paradigm Institute on Sunday, they're calling with the new administration coming into office for a global disclosure day. And he's all like, hey guys, there are underwater bases and in mountains. You could go watch this whole Zoom meeting. It's very long. There's a lot of experts that talk. He himself is a graduate from Harvard. Very smart guy. This is on their X account. They said it was on their YouTube page, but I can't find it. Okay, so he claims that the underwater UFO base is between this dormant volcano, by the way, isn't that interesting, off the coast of Baja, and the Nimitz incident where the Navy pilots caught all the identified flying objects was 100 miles south of San Diego. The blurred image that people were insinuating could be an underwater base is roughly right here in this area. So it's real interesting that all of this is happening in this area.
And that they're coming and going to our planet right now and have been for some time. They, in fact, have bases here on our planet, many of which are located high in the desolate areas in the mountains where very few people ever go, and beneath the sea. There's a major base in the Pacific that we're virtually certain exists off Baja, between Baja and Guadalupe Island, potentially beneath the ocean floor. This has been monitored. We have hundreds of videos of the vehicles coming and going from that location and plunging into the sea and going down into and coming from this base.
Here are 3 things about your lawyer that you probably don't know. Number 1, your lawyer had to pass the bar to become a lawyer. That's right, the British Accredited Registry, which means that they take an oath with the Queen of England. Number 2, every lawyer is an esquire, meaning what? They're part of the Queen's civilian militia, which is why number 3, your lawyer cannot represent you, they represent you. What do you mean? When you go into court, they represent you as a straw person, a fictional person, which is why you ain't got no rights up in these courtrooms.
Is anyone else struggling to reconcile with the fact that there's a significant portion of Americans who are just insane?
Between 2022 and 2023, the National Literacy Institute reported that 54% of U.S. adults have a literacy below 6th grade, meaning that they have a tough time reading and spelling words like flammable, institution, sympathetic, psychology, and also that 47 million Americans, or about 1 in 7, have a reading level below 5th grade and are functionally illiterate, and that 21% of them are illiterate. That's your reasoning, not that they're insane.
So I've had a few people that have asked me why I'm so interested in conspiracy theories. And I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about this on here, so I'm going to say for entertainment purposes only. This is my personal experience, so I don't know why they take it down, but they might take it down. I don't know. I had an aunt. She's no longer here. She passed away. But before she passed away, she told me essentially everything. So she worked at Area 51 in one of the sublevels in the 80s. And what she told me is that, yes, the Greys are real, that they have interviewed Greys and they work with the Greys. And we had a treaty with the Greys. At the time that she passed away, it was still active. It's no longer active at this point, so I don't know what's happening with that. But we did have a treaty with the Greys, an agreement with them. And we were doing a lot of reverse engineering and stuff like that. And she actually had blueprints of one of the reverse engineering crafts. And she had a whole bunch of documents, like paperwork, because back then everything was, documents. They weren't doing everything electronically. So she kept some of it, and she had it in her house. And my dad went in there, and he was clearing out her house after she passed away. And that's when he found a whole bunch of the documents, and he found them really interesting, And so he took them, and then for some reason, while he was driving home on the freeway, he veered off the freeway into a brick wall and was no longer alive. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that word on TikTok, the D word that coincides with unaliving. But what was confusing about that is my dad was a race car driver, and he never got in a car accident. He was a really good driver, so that was really shocking. And he was 57 years old and didn't have any pre-existing conditions. So that was shocking. And then what really bugged me was when the police gave me his belongings, the documents were gone. So just skimming over the top of everything, that is why I am interested in conspiracy theories, and I don't trust the government. Okay, love you, bye.
So this is the reason why you need to get rid of all your non-stick pans. Watch this video.
There's a man-made chemical. It repelled elements, especially water. So they used it to make the first ever waterproof coating for tanks. Then some companies thought, hey, why just a battlefield? Why not bring this chemical into American homes? And they made their own impenetrable coating, but not for tanks, for pans. They called it Teflon. The men and workers who made Teflon were coming down with nausea, fevers. DuPont wanted to know why. So they laced cigarettes with Teflon. Almost all those men were hospitalized. 1 year after Teflon launched, and already DuPont knew. The dust, they just sent right up the smokestacks, released into the air. The sludge, tossed into the Ohio, or packed it in the drums and chucked it into the Chesapeake. But they weren't the only ones covering their tracks.
So yeah, that's the reason why I got rid of all my Teflon pans. And if you didn't know, it's a forever chemical, what stays in your body forever. If you do want an alternative, I use cast iron pans or solid copper pans. They're quite expensive, but definitely worth it.
Let's talk about uncontacted peoples for a moment. Please stick with me because I really want to hear your thoughts. This is something I was just thinking about at the gym today, but these are pictures of uncontacted peoples, also known as uncontacted tribes, uncontacted groups. Who are they? Well, like the name says, they are uncontacted. They do not know the modern world. There's a map that shows all the countries that have uncontacted groups of people. This map right here, the red dots identify locations where we know these uncontacted tribes exist. We actively try to keep these tribes uncontacted. We want it to remain that way, and there's many reasons for that. One of the big reasons is the risk that it imposes, and this is explained through the story of John Cho. He was a missionary that felt called to go bring the gospel to the people of North Sentinel Island, and unfortunately it cost him his life. In contacting uncontacted peoples, there's a lot of risk. We could bring disease, we could bring death to them. They could be violent, they don't know us, they could bring death to us. What gives us the right to disrupt their way of life? Yada, yada, yada. There's a lot of reasons. Hear me out on this. What if Earth is just a group of uncontacted peoples? What if the fact that we don't see any life outside of us is because we're not meant to? They are perfectly aware of us, even though we are unaware of them. Now, if you've ever looked into extraterrestrial life, you've heard of the Fermi paradox, the contradiction between the high likelihood of emergence of ET intelligence, but also the lack of evidence. The paradox in its broad forms is, why has the Earth not been visited, and why is there no evidence for extraterrestrial intelligence at all? But here's my question. This no evidence comes from a very Earth-centered perspective. One could say that these uncontacted tribes would say there is no evidence of modern life outside of them because they are uncontacted. But does that mean the evidence that you and we don't exist? No. Now, pictures like this are very controversial. They are drones that captured pictures of these uncontacted peoples. You know, these guys were just like, what the hell is that? We've never seen that before. They have no concept of modern technology. To us, they live in a very archaic form. What if we are those living in a very archaic form when it comes to the universe? What if there is a danger that we pose that keeps us uncontacted, constantly monitored in a petri dish so that we remain uncontacted? I just think it's really interesting because a lot of times people will say there is no evidence of alien life. But my question is, just because we can't perceive the evidence, does that mean that evidence doesn't exist? Do we have to observe it to make it real? Or do we not see anything because it is by design and we are the uncontacted peoples? Let me know what you think, but I don't know, it's just a fun little thought experiment to get you out of your egocentric perspective.
A gentleman always offers to remove his shoes when entering someone's home. Some people have a shoes off type of house, some people have a shoes on type of house, others consider some areas of their home to be shoes on and other areas, such as areas with carpet, to be shoes off. Now, I'm a shoes on kind of guy. I have hardwood floors, and I don't want my guests to bother taking their shoes off. However, if you have particularly dirty shoes, wet or muddy shoes, then please insist on removing your shoes, even if the host says they don't care.
If you have terrible itching and you can't sleep at night, and this happened right after you were in close contact with someone recently, you might actually have scabies. What is scabies? Scabies is a parasite that actually lives on your skin, and it will live on your skin for as long as you don't treat it. Here's the tricky part though. Scabies is hard to diagnose, and in fact, the diagnosis gets missed all the time. However, the good news is that the treatment is really straightforward. You can either use topical permethrin cream or an oral medication called ivermectin, and it's very easily treated.
I know what you're thinking. Wow, that's a big ass rock. Well, you'd be wrong. That is not a big ass rock. It is a big ass chunk of metal. In fact, it's actually the biggest ass chunk of metal. This is the hoba meteorite. Pretty amazing that it landed in front of all those seats. The hoba meteorite is not only the largest intact meteorite on the entire planet, but also the largest known piece of iron on the entire planet. It weighs 60 tons. The thing is fucking huge. Here's the weird part. Hoba meteorite has no impact crater. Bit strange. Let's talk about why. It's theorized that when the hoba meteorite entered the Earth's atmosphere, it was going really goddamn fast, probably around 20,000 miles an hour. But as it entered the atmosphere, it slowed down, potentially because of its shape being very flat on both sides. This would have increased its drag, meaning that its impact may have only been around 6,000 miles an hour. This would have both reduced the size of the impact crater and also preserved the projectile. Hoba was actually a tiny meteorite, which is actually why it's the largest intact specimen that we have, because when something like this enters the atmosphere at 20,000 miles an hour, it does this. this.
Things that are normal in America and illegal in Russia. Safety edition. Number one, I was shocked. But in the United States, in order to work with food, in a restaurant, in a grocery store, people that are prepping like ground beef and stuff, they're not going through medical exams. Thinking about this is really terrifying. Because in Russia, in order to handle food, you need to go through a complete health checkup and get a clearance from your doctor. They check your blood, they check you for parasites, they check you for different types of disease. Only then, after you get this clearance and show it, you're ready to work. And you have to go through this every year. Number two, it is illegal in Russia to carry a firearm. You can still practice. You have to go to your local range, get your firearm, have it registered there, and you must leave it there. You can't get it out from the facility. People in comments were come off at me like how you don't own a firearm. This is not safe, but no one has it. You have to understand, like, nobody. Only the hunters are allowed to have a shotgun. But again, they're going through all mental checkups and not allowed to take it out without specific permit. What do you guys think?